Alright, for the next part, we need to have the graphs of both object distance, image distance to 1 over object distance to 1 over image distance. So to be able to do this, there's an easy and fast way to do this in Excel. So basically, whatever selection you make, the first column is always picked as your x-axis, and then your second column is picked as your y-axis. And we don't really have a problem with this because in our x-axis we're going to have object distance, and the y we're going to have image distance. So once you select, including the titles, once you select the entire data set, all you have to do is go to the part that says insert chart, or you basically go to insert and then hit chart. So once you do this, it's just going to give you a default graph type, but we're not going to be going for the bar graph, but we're going to need a line graph. So to be able to do so, you're going to go here, chart type, it's not column, it's going to be line. So once you have this, you're going to be able to actually have your graph. So here is our graph. We're going to play with this a little bit more, but I would like to do the other one as well. So I think we're going to need this one first. And then for the next one, do the same thing. So this time you're going to select 1 over object distance to 1 over image distance. Again, in our x-axis we're going to have 1 over object distance, and the y-axis we're going to have 1 over image distance, so there's no problem. So once you select this, again, hit insert chart, and it's just going to bring it up for you. So you don't need to do anything, as you can see. Alright, so if you would like to work on those graphs, so some properties. So for example, in the x-axis we are starting from 0.02, and on the y-axis basically we start from 0. There's no problem with that. So, but we are going to need to do some changes in this. So if you would like to have more grid lines, so what are you going to do for this? For this, you're going to go to customize, and then it says grid lines, and you can specify which axis you're looking for. So you can just go with the vertical axis, and then it says major grid line counts. So it defines it automatically, but if you would like, you can basically have more lines. So once you add it, it's just going to increase this number of lines that you have. Alright, and if you would like to do it for the X, then again, you can have this one as well, so whatever you need. Alright, the other thing that you guys are going to need, you're going to need the slope of this line. So how do you find the slope of this line? So to be able to find the slope, you need to go on the graph, and the line of the graph. Click on the graph, and then it is going to bring up another thing for you. It's going to go to series. So once you go to the series, if you scroll down, you're going to have this trend line option. Once you click on it, and then now it's just going to basically bring you up this equation option. So this is going to be line of best fit for you, and then this line of best fit will also bring you the equation. So, and remember, how do we read our equation? So right now it's negative 1.01 times x plus 0.101. So remember, the number in front of the x is your slope, and the extra number is your y-intercept. So you are going to need this y-intercept. So my y-intercept is y-intercept. It is equal to 0.101. So this is my y-intercept. And if you actually check your notes, or if you check the equation paper, then you will see that this y-intercept in this graph is going to be your 1 over focal point. So if you would like to find your focal point, then you're going to go basically focal, then it's just going to be 1 over this value. So again, equal to 1 divided by my y-intercept. And as you can see, my focal point is 9.909. And if you're looking for the center of curvature, what is center of curvature? It is twice of the focal point, so equal 2 times this focal point. Here we go. So my center of curvature is 19.8 and my focal point is that. So let's see if it's a likely situation. So remember, for the convex lenses, when you're at the center, your image is also at the center. So that means once my object is at 19.8, then my image should be around that point as well. So my closest point to this is what? When my object is 20 centimeters, my image is also at 20 centimeters. So as you can see, this is a pretty accurate experiment in that case, because I found my center of curvature as 19.8. Originally, that's the experimental value, but it's probably 20, because at 20 I'm able to see the object and image distance exactly the same. Alright, so that's how you're going to use this image distance, object distance graph. And if you would like to change the zero, the initial point, starting point of this, so you can just double click on the graph, excuse me, and then it's just going to go to horizontal axis directly, and then you can just define the minimum value for it, and then you can just switch it to 0, and then you will be able to actually see that this is almost going through 0.1. Alright, so that's how we use this graph. Alright, what about this next graph? So analysis wise, this is pretty good, but what we need to do is we need to put both of our axes to 0, and then we will be able to actually see how this graph is working. So if you look at this graph, you have object distance here and image distance here. So this graph, if you look at the graph, let's see what's happening. So object distance, let's go from the forward. So I am basically starting from 50 centimeters. When I place my object at 50 centimeters, so again, I'm going to need this a little bit more because I'm seeing as 25, but I don't really, I'm going to need a little bit more than that. So I need to click on this and then change my vertical axis grid lines to, let's make it maximum, and then let's change the maximum value of it to 110, and then minimum value to 0. Alright, so as you can see, this is 12, and then it's almost getting to, it's pretty close to 12. So as you are at 50 centimeters, then the object is almost around like 12 centimeters. And as you get closer and closer, my image is getting farther and farther away. And as you get closer to some number in here, as you can see, as you get closer to number 10, my image is getting farther and farther away. So what does that mean? If you remember the image properties for convex lens, I think it's page 32, as you get closer and closer to the lens, the image is actually getting farther and farther away. And at focal point, you are actually going to infinity. And as you can see, as this guy approaches to a number, it's actually going to really, really high numbers. So it's basically going to infinity. So what does that mean? As that means you are approaching to your focal point. So that means your focal point is somewhere over here. Or if you also think backward, as you go farther and farther away from the object, from the lens, your image is getting closer and closer to focal point. And this is basically reaching to, well, here it's 12.2, but it's a little bit below 12.2, and if you had a better graph, then you would see that this is actually approaching to 10 as well. So what does that mean? 10 is your focal point. And what did we find our focal point as? 9.9, which is pretty close to 10. So as you can see, this is telling me my focal point is 10 and center of curvature is 20. This graph is also telling me the same thing, and my data points are also telling me the same thing. When I am at center of curvature, my image is also at the center of curvature. So these are basically your analysis for those two graphs in this data set. I know it's going to be difficult to basically comprehend all of those because these are not straightforward things and we are not at school, but basically try your best to answer the questions in your assignment. And remember, we are not going to have any grades for those, but we are going to have chapter tests soon, and it's going to be graded. So make sure you guys understand those. And if you have any questions about those, make sure you ask those questions and get your answers. Alright, thank you so much for watching.